So, here are a couple of the learning goals for our class today. By the end of the class, you will all be able to analyze a paragraph in Spanish to determine the correct form of the verb estar. That's the focus of our class today, the verb estar. Brand new verb. Get excited. You'll be able to speak in Spanish, in the target language here, while properly conjugating the verb estar. And by the end of class, you will read the conjugations of the verb estar to interpret the correct pronouns. Okay. That's the goal for our class today. On the board here on the screen is the world language standards from which this lesson is derived. And let's move right along. Before we dive into the verb estar, one important thing that we do is connect to our prior knowledge. As we talked about last chapter, we saw how to describe different classes throughout the day's schedule. So to review that, let's take a look at this slideshow to practice some of this vocabulary. Now we just have become masters at this, so hopefully this is fresh in our minds. And like usual, as soon as you see the term, just say it out loud. So this class, la clase de arte, muy bien. How about this one? El español, excelente. Ciencias naturales, muy bien. Las ciencias sociales, excelente. Muy bien, la educación física. El inglés, correcto. Yeah, very good. Las matemáticas, excellent. Las matemáticas. La tecnología, muy bien. El horario, muy bien. And lastly here, la tarea, excellent. So, how about this one again? Tecnología, matemáticas, inglés, good. Now we're going to need that vocabulary for an activity we're going to do shortly, so keep that fresh in your mind. Now, last chapter, our main focus from the perspective of the grammar was to master AR verbs in the present tense. To do so, we learned about regular AR verbs. The verb hablar is an example of a regular verb because it follows a consistent conjugation pattern. To conjugate a verb like hablar, we go through a couple of steps. So we start with the infinitive, the base. In English, it would be to speak. What's the first step of conjugating a verb like this? Yeah, Leah?
You need to know what pronoun you're conjugating the verb for.
Exactly. Well, that's first. Exactly. We need to know who it is that's doing the action. So for sake of example, it's yo. That's the pronoun. We know who it is that's doing it. Now what? We got to get rid of something. Get rid of the ending. Exactly. And in its place, what do we add? The O, the or, the conjugation. Yo hablo español con los estudiantes. The regular AR verb endings in the present tense are o, as, a, amos, and an. Now the cool thing about this is it's a pattern. Once we know those endings, we can conjugate most verbs that end with that AR ending in the present tense, because the pattern is exactly the same whether the verb is hablar, enseñar, estudiar, dibujar. It's repeatable. So that's a regular verb. Irregular verbs, on the other hand, are a little bit different. The first one we're going to practice and study this year is the verb estar. So for right now, please take out a piece of paper because we're going to take a couple of notes on this irregular verb. The most important thing to get copied down is the chart, the conjugation chart. So you may find that either on the screen here or on the whiteboard right here. The verb estar means to be. It means to be. And it's an irregular verb because the pattern that it follows to conjugate is completely unique. No other verb in the language has this exact same pattern.